So, here's a question for you. Is it time to stop giving money to France to halt small boat crossings? We're asking this because ITV News filmed a group of migrants sprinting across beaches in northern France while French police stood by and failed to prevent them from setting off for UK shores. I mean, not just failed to prevent them, didn't even particularly look in the image captured as though they were trying, did they? I think that's what's unacceptable.
That's what the images look like. Last year, the government committed to giving France almost £500 million over 3 years to help curb the crossings. Political activist Femi Olawole believes the money should be spent on helping rehome refugees safely. But former government advisor Charlie Rowley says the money isn't going to waste. Femi, let's come to you first. I mean, look, France, we have got an issue here, and we can get into some of the reasons how we've got there, but the fact is there is an issue, and that needs to be sorted. It is partly France's responsibility. They have been paid an awful lot of money. Looking at those pictures, it would appear that they are sort of washing their hands of it.
I just find it incredible that the very existence of this government is based on the idea that we should be controlling our borders, not the EU, and now suddenly the same government is complaining that the EU isn't controlling our borders. But what this really is about is the fact that this government, yet again, spending millions and millions of our money on the and burning it on the altar of sticking it to migrants when ordinary people are struggling to pay their bills, whether it's spending £500 million on French police, which doesn't work, whether it's spending £169,000 per refugee to send them to Rwanda, which hasn't worked, or whether it's even Brexit in terms of controlling immigration that's caused major labour shortages, which has made our economy worse, again, during a cost of living crisis. Every time this government says they're tackling immigration, it just leaves the British people with another bill to pay.
So what do you think?
Well, the UK left the EU, it didn't leave Europe, and there is a whole migration problem happening, not just in the UK, but right across Europe. So every country has a responsibility to deal with that issue. You're absolutely right, the money is going to France, but, you know, it is a French problem. They have to help because the UK taxpayer is funding that support for France to help try and stop those boats coming over to the UK. If you're not funding that project, you'll end up funding the hotel costs, which the UK government is trying to close down, because it's not fair on the UK taxpayer to spend that £6 million a day on hotel accommodation for people that come into this country illegally.
Those aren't the only options, though. If they spent that money on actually processing people on time, like France and Germany process their refugees significantly faster than we are, then those people could then join the UK population, enter our labour force, and given that we have major labour shortages, that would actually help people here right now.
Well, there's no doubt that, obviously, the UK government will say that it's investing more in terms of those processing requirements. They're recruiting more border force. They're obviously giving more money to France to help stem that problem. But it's about fairness. You can't just come into the UK illegally. I mean, back in 2022, there were about 50,000 people that entered the country illegally. That was down last year to about 30,000. That is still too high. So it is a combination of recruiting more people, busting those criminal gangs, investing in our partners with France to stop those boats coming over, and making sure that actually people that come into this country legally can work, but those that actually also need to come to the UK because they're seeking persecution or prosecution actually are able to come into the UK and get the support that they need.
I mean, Charlie, I suppose, sorry, just one second, I suppose at what the heart of the emotional reaction people feel when looking at this footage is, regardless of the principle of what that money is supposed to go for, they feel diddled because it looks like the French police aren't as proactive as they should be in stopping, apart from anything else, those poor souls risking their life, and also helping and using the money that had been given to them by the UK to control this problem.
That's absolutely right. And there are two issues there. One, you've got, yes, a lot of people that are coming in over in those small boats. A lot of them are economic migrants. That's why there's a 90% returns rate, the government would say, with countries like Albania to return people that come to this country illegally. But you're right, there are people that make that perilous journey because of desperation and need. But it's about busting those criminal gangs in the first place that do that. You only do that by working very closely with France on the back of the money that we're giving them to help stop that problem. But if they're failing to do that, that's a very tough conversation that needs to be had between the Home Secretary and the Prime Minister of the UK, President Macron.
We should say, I'll come to you in a minute, Femi, but just you just said the French police told ITV News on the day that ITV News were there filming that they had intercepted more than 600 migrants. They made 2 arrests. And the reason why they didn't intervene as much is that they think their officers are at risk of physical assault, and also it's a policy for not interfering when people are in the water in order to prevent causing further chaos that could lead to drownings. You can understand that to a certain extent. Femi?
I was going to say, you talk about fairness. Have we really been fair? Because these people wouldn't get onto these dangerous boats if they had safe and legal routes. Suella Braverman has actually confirmed that there aren't safe and legal routes for them to get to the UK. And when you consider just how insane it is that right now... Suella Braverman confirmed that there aren't. And consider that right now, we actually make the Middle East less safe, whether it's selling weapons to Saudi Arabia, which are used to bomb hospitals and schools in Yemen, and then we send Yemeni refugees back to Yemen, or the fact that we're currently selling weapons to Israel, who've killed 30,000 people in Gaza, and now we're going to have to deal with a major refugee crisis next year in terms of the people there who are victims of a genocide. And are we going to send them out to Rwanda as well?
Femi's got a point, because you were government advisor when you advised the government and helped them in the Homes for Ukraine scheme. Now, we had somebody on the show a couple of weeks ago, Yusuf, who's a British Palestinian, and he's trying to get just 300 families, not even the amount of numbers we're talking about in Ukraine, trying to get them over in a similar scheme. We don't see that. So there does seem to be a bit of inequity, a bit of unfairness on how we treat some migrants and how we treat others.
Well, it is all about fairness, and it's about making sure that in terms of those safe and legal routes, which there are, because of the example that you've just given, the Homes for Ukraine scheme, where thousands of people opened up their hearts...
For Ukraine, but not, I don't think there is a similar thing in Afghanistan or Syria
Palestine.
Or Iraq. They can't just pop into an embassy and get a visa.
There are schemes in place, obviously, for the Homes for Ukraine. We do have a scheme for Syrian refugees and for those coming from Afghanistan, as we do for Hong Kong. So it is up to the UK government to decide who can come into this country, for the UK government to set up those schemes and those safe and legal routes.
It's a very handful that come through the Afghanistan scheme because they can't... It's not working, and it's not as efficient as something like the Ukraine scheme.
Well, the Homes for Ukraine scheme was something where, because of the many, many thousands of people, the British public opened up their hearts, their homes to those many people that are coming into this country that need to flee that terror and conflict. Now, if we need to extend that in other parts of the world, of course we will, because the British public know, and the British public will always stand up for people that are fleeing persecution, who need to come to this country.
Do you support that for Gaza? Do you support that for Gaza? Given that we're currently aiding and abetting genocide in Gaza, do you support that for the victims in Gaza?
I don't accept that anybody is aiding and abetting genocide.
We're selling weapons that are being used to kill thousands of people, so I think
the UK lawyers have suggested we may well be aiding and abetting.
They're suggesting it, but there'll be others that suggest otherwise, and, it's a...
I think we're moving into a different debate here, a very important one, but a different debate. Thank you very much, both of you. Thank you very much, both of you.